Margaret Wilson sat alone in the small, aging house she rented on the outskirts of a quiet American town. The house was far from beautiful. Its paint was peeling, the wooden porch creaked with every step, and during winter the cold wind found its way through tiny cracks in the walls. Yet to Margaret, it was home. 3 years earlier, life had been different. Her husband, Daniel Wilson, had been a hard-working construction worker. They were not rich, but they were happy. Daniel always dreamed of saving enough money to buy a small home where they could grow old together. Every evening he would return home covered in dust, smiling despite his exhaustion. Then one rainy evening, everything changed. Daniel was involved in a tragic accident on his way home from work. The phone call arrived just after sunset. Margaret still remembered the trembling voice on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry, ma'am." Those words shattered her world. For months after Daniel's death, Margaret struggled to accept reality. She cried herself to sleep almost every night. The silence inside the house became unbearable. Every corner reminded her of the man she had loved. With no husband and very little savings, survival became difficult. Margaret started taking cleaning jobs around town. She cleaned kitchens, washed windows, scrubbed floors, and organized storage rooms. The work was exhausting, but she refused to give up. Every dollar she earned was carefully saved. She dreamed that one day she would have enough money to start a small business and escape poverty. Years passed, life remained hard, but Margaret continued fighting. One Friday evening, she received a call from a wealthy family asking if she could help clean their large house after a gathering. The job would pay more than usual, so she immediately accepted. That night, she worked late. While she was away, dark clouds gathered over the town. The streets became quiet, and somewhere nearby, 2 men were watching her house. The thieves had noticed Margaret's routine for several weeks. They knew she lived alone. They knew she worked late. Most importantly, they believed she kept cash inside the house. As midnight approached, the men quietly walked toward the property. One of them pulled a crowbar from his jacket. Within seconds, the old lock snapped. The door opened. They entered silently. Drawers were opened, cabinets were searched, boxes were emptied onto the floor. They found envelopes containing Margaret's savings. Money she had spent years collecting. Money she hoped would one day change her future. The thieves took everything, then they disappeared into the darkness. Hours later, Margaret finally returned home. She was tired but hopeful. The extra money from the cleaning job would help pay next month's rent. As she approached the house, something felt wrong. The front door was slightly open. Her heart immediately began racing. She rushed forward. The broken lock hung from the doorframe. With trembling hands, she stepped inside. The sight froze her in place. Furniture had been overturned. Clothes were scattered everywhere. Drawers were lying open. The small metal box where she kept her savings was empty. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Then reality hit. Everything was gone. Margaret collapsed onto the floor. Tears streamed down her face. Years of sacrifice, years of hard work, years of hope. Gone in a single night. She cried until dawn. The next morning, she reported the crime to the police. An officer arrived and took notes. They photographed the damage and promised to investigate. But Margaret could see the uncertainty in their eyes. There were no cameras, no witnesses, very few clues. Days passed, nothing changed. The thieves remained free. The money remained gone. Margaret continued searching for work, but her situation grew worse. Then came another problem: the rent. Her landlord, Mr. Harris, arrived at the house carrying a folder. He knocked firmly. Margaret opened the door. "Margaret," he said, "the rent is overdue." Tears filled her eyes. "Please, Mr. Harris, someone robbed my house. They took everything I had." The landlord sighed. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I have bills too. I just need more time." "How much time?" "A few weeks." Mr. Harris shook his head. "I can't do that." Margaret felt panic rising inside her. "Please." The landlord hesitated. Then he said, "I'll give you one more day. Tomorrow, I need the rent. One day." That was all she had. Margaret spent the next 24 hours desperately searching for help. She called people she knew. No one could lend enough money. She worked extra hours. It wasn't enough. The following afternoon, Mr. Harris returned. Margaret opened the door slowly. The landlord immediately knew the answer. You don't have it, do you? She lowered her head. No. Mr. Harris frowned. I'm sorry, but you have to leave. Please. I gave you extra time. Margaret began crying. The landlord remained firm. Within an hour, her belongings were outside. A few bags, some clothes, photographs of Daniel, and the little she had left. As the sun began setting, Margaret sat beside her bags on the roadside. Cars passed by, people looked. Some stared, some whispered. Most simply continued walking. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. Margaret felt invisible, broken, alone. The world moved around her as if she didn't exist. Then, just before sunset, someone finally stopped. A man in his mid-30s approached slowly. He wore simple clothes and carried a grocery bag. His name was Michael Carter. He looked at Margaret with concern. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Margaret wiped away tears. "I'm fine." Michael gently shook his head. "No, you're not." She looked away. "I don't want charity. I'm not offering charity." "Then what do you want?" "I want to know what happened." For a long moment, she remained silent. Then the story poured out. The robbery, the lost savings, the rent, the eviction, everything. Michael listened carefully without interrupting. When she finished, he reached into his wallet and pulled out several bills. Margaret immediately shook her head. "No. Please take it." "I can't." "Why not?" "I don't accept handouts." Michael smiled sadly. "This isn't a handout." Margaret looked confused. Several years ago, Michael explained he had been homeless too. A stranger had helped him when nobody else would. The money he offered wasn't charity. It was gratitude, a way of passing kindness forward. Margaret stared at him. For the first time in days, she felt a tiny spark of hope, a tiny reminder that not everyone in the world was cruel, and neither of them realized it yet. But this meeting was about to change both of their lives forever. For the first time in days, she felt a tiny spark of hope, a tiny reminder that not everyone in the world was cruel, and neither of them realized it yet. But this meeting was about to change both of their lives forever. The following morning, Margaret woke up on the roadside feeling exhausted. The events of the past week still felt like a nightmare she could not escape. To her surprise, Michael returned. He carried 2 cups of coffee and a paper bag filled with breakfast sandwiches. "I thought you might be hungry," he said. Margaret hesitated before accepting the food. "Thank you." Michael sat beside her. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Michael broke the silence. "I've been thinking about your situation." Margaret sighed. "So have I." "I think I can help." Margaret looked at him carefully. "You've already helped enough." Michael shook his head. "No, I mean really help." Over the next few days, Michael began working on an idea. Near the edge of town was a small, unused lot beside a quiet road. It wasn't much, but it was safe. Using some of his savings and materials from friends, Michael arranged for a small metal shed to be built there. It wasn't luxurious, it wasn't even comfortable, but it was dry, secure, and far better than sleeping on the street. When Margaret saw it for the first time, tears filled her eyes. "You did this for me?" Michael smiled. "I did this so you could have a fresh start." For the first time in weeks, Margaret felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. A few days later, Michael returned with another idea. "What if you started your own business?" Margaret laughed softly. "A business? With what money?" "I'll help you." Michael knew that Margaret was hardworking. He had seen her determination. He knew she didn't need charity. She needed an opportunity. Together they came up with a simple plan. A small roadside food stand. Nothing fancy. Just homemade sandwiches, coffee, soup, and baked goods. At first, Margaret was nervous. She had never owned a business before, but Michael encouraged her every step of the way. The first week was difficult. Some days only a handful of customers stopped by. There were moments when Margaret wondered if the business would fail, but she refused to quit. Every morning she woke before sunrise. She prepared food, cleaned the stand, and greeted every customer with a smile. Slowly, people began talking about her food. A truck driver told another driver. A customer recommended the stand to friends. Families began stopping by on weekends. Month after month, the business grew. The tiny roadside stand became one of the most popular places in the area. For the first time since Daniel's death, Margaret felt proud of her future. She was building something that belonged to her. Through it all, Michael remained by her side. Whenever supplies ran low, he helped. Whenever equipment broke, he fixed it. Whenever Margaret doubted herself, he reminded her how far she had come. Their friendship grew stronger with each passing month. They laughed together, shared meals together, supported each other through difficult days. Without realizing it, both of them had become an important part of each other's lives. One evening, after closing the stand, they sat outside watching the sunset. The sky was painted with shades of orange and gold. Michael looked at Margaret. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he finally spoke. "Margaret." She turned toward him. "Yes? I think I've fallen in love with you." Margaret froze. Her heart began beating faster. For years she had convinced herself that she would never love again. Daniel had been her entire world. After losing him, she had built walls around her heart. But Michael was different. He had entered her life when she had nothing. He had helped her without expecting anything in return. Most importantly, he had treated her with kindness and respect. That night, Margaret couldn't sleep. She spent hours thinking, remembering, praying, trying to understand her feelings. Several days later, she finally gave Michael her answer. They met outside the food stand before opening. Michael looked nervous. Margaret smiled. Then she took his hand. "I love you too." For a moment, Michael couldn't speak. The smile on his face said everything. A year later, they were married. The ceremony was small, simple, beautiful. Friends and neighbors attended. Many of the people who had supported Margaret's business came to celebrate with them. As Margaret walked down the aisle, she felt grateful. Not because life had been easy, but because she had survived the hardest parts. She had lost everything, and somehow found happiness again. After the wedding, Margaret and Michael continued building their future together. The food stand became a restaurant. The restaurant became a successful local business. Eventually, they bought a beautiful home of their own, the kind of home Margaret once thought she would never have. Then one unexpected phone call changed everything again. It was the police department. An officer asked Margaret to come to the station. Her stomach tightened with anxiety. Had something happened? When she arrived, the officer smiled. "We found them." Margaret stared at him. "Found who?" "The men who robbed your house." For a moment, she couldn't believe what she was hearing. The thieves had been arrested during another burglary. During the investigation, police connected them to several unsolved crimes, including the robbery at Margaret's home. The case eventually went to court. Margaret testified about everything she had lost. The judge listened carefully. The evidence was overwhelming. The thieves were convicted and sentenced to prison. As Margaret left the courthouse, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Justice had finally been served. The money they stole could never fully replace the pain she had endured. But knowing they were held accountable brought peace. Years passed. Margaret and Michael built a wonderful life together. Soon they welcomed a baby boy into their family. 2 years later, they had a daughter. Their home was filled with laughter, happiness, and love. Sometimes Margaret would sit on the porch in the evening and think about the night she lost everything. The robbery, the eviction, the loneliness, the fear. Back then, she believed her life was over. She never imagined that losing everything would eventually lead her toward a better future. One evening, as the sun disappeared below the horizon, Michael sat beside her. Their children were playing in the yard. Their home was filled with warmth. Their future was bright. Michael gently took her hand. "Do you ever think about that day we met?" Margaret smiled. "Every day." Michael laughed. "Best decision I ever made was stopping to ask if you were okay." Margaret squeezed his hand. "And the best thing that ever happened to me was meeting you." As they watched their children play, Margaret realized something important. Life had taken away the person she loved. It had taken away her savings, her home, her security, but it had never taken away her courage. And because she refused to give up, life eventually rewarded her with something she never expected. A second chance, the end. Chance.